Well, folks, it has been a real mess this week. As you already know, Vault 7 dropped on Tuesday, and what is called Year Zero is out, and there's been a lot of discussion about it. Now, before I begin this week's show, I want to make something totally clear right now. Nobody has clean hands in this, and that is a no doubt about it fact, so don't even try to blame one side or the other. Now, this is my opinion and mine alone on this whole thing so far. From what I've seen and read so far, this is going to get real ugly real fast, and I will explain. Now, before I did anything, I watched a press briefing from White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer, and it was interesting. For the record, I could not pull the video from the White House for some strange reason, and I got the audio only, and he was asked directly about it. Here in the first part, here's what he said when asked about the whole situation.
John, we've confirmed that there is a criminal investigation into this alleged theft of cyber tools from the CIA by Wikileaks. What can the White House tell us about the situation, in particular the fact that it seems like there's another leak from the intelligence community that's on the scale of Edward Snowden? And can you assure the American people that none of these tools have ever been used against them?
Well, there's a couple things in that. Number one, for obvious reasons, it is our policy as a government not to confirm the authenticity of any kind of disclosure or hack. That would be highly inappropriate for us. But, all of these occurred under the last administration. That is important. All of these alleged issues. And I think it's interesting to have it asked this way about the damage that could have occurred or what tools could be used in light of what's been going on recently. I mean, we've had, your own network's correspondent, James Rosen, had his phones, multiple phones, tapped. Was that appropriate back then? I think there's a lot of concern out there about alleged leaks. I mean, there's two steps to this. And I think what you saw over the last week in terms of this should be a major concern to people in terms of the leaks that are coming out and the desire to get to the bottom of them, whether or not specifically with respect to the disclosure that you're referring to, but I think the idea that we are having these ongoing disclosures of national security and classified information should be something that everybody is outraged in this country. This is the kind of disclosure that undermines our country, our security, and our well-being. And you've seen over the last 2 years, depending on the leak, it depends on the outrage. It's interesting how whether the leak occurred under the last administration, you had member after member talking about disclosures that occurred during the last administration, whether it was members of Congress. Elijah Cummings expressed concern during the last administration in terms of the Americans that were, when it dealt with Hillary Clinton, there was complete outrage about the leaks that occurred, and members calling for investigations into the leaks. It's interesting how there is sort of a double standard with when the leaks occur, how much outrage there is. And so I do think it's important. While I don't want to get into confirming or denying this particular thing, I think it is interesting how different subjects are approached. This one, everyone is immediately rushing to, and there should be a lot more coverage of this. This alleged leak should concern every single American in terms of the impact it has on our national security.
He has a point. I remember all the outrage when everything was coming out about Clinton and, in a way, ties into Trump. No one is denying that the Obama administration tried to get a warrant on Trump and got shot down the first time because it was too broad in wording. However, if you believe that Trump Tower was wiretapped, progressives have no, and I mean no, space to have it one way, then be outraged that all the information got leaked about Clinton. This has been so bad this week that I even watched Rachel Maddow because people kept posting a video. She did tying Trump to the Russians. Mrs. Maddow, I get that you were one of the biggest cheerleaders for Clinton. I get that. But that was embarrassing, even for you. You were trying so hard to daisy chain this to Trump, you made yourself look so bad that even I had to stop watching it. Now, with that being said, the issue came up again in the press briefing, and here's what he said.
Again, I'm not going to, it's U.S. government policy not to confirm this. I think he has obviously been very concerned, as I've stated, about the disclosure of national security on any level. It undermines our country's national security. And I think that, I just will say, I think there's also been a big double standard when it comes to disclosures of national, of classified information, and the outrage or that exists when one side has it happen versus another. I think that there has been a lot of disclosures about national security that occurred last cycle when there was potential that the FBI had leaked certain information. The members of Congress on the other side of the aisle, Hillary Clinton and others, talked about how there was so much concern about classified information. We're seeing such silence and outrage from the media, from others, with the current disclosures now, with things that may or may not have happened towards the 2016 election when it comes to this side. So I think there's a vast difference when it comes to how the disclosures are approached. Yeah.
He made it a point to talk about the double standard that is going on right now. I understand that you do not like Trump. I get that. But until you have your congressperson vote to remove him from office, you are stuck with him for at least 4 years. All you're doing now is getting citizens across the political spectrum getting behind him with all your nonsense. Now, Trump does need to stop all the tweeting, but if he's right about all of this, what do you do then? Sorry, folks. If this ends up being all true, it is game over for Team Blue. Now, in all this, there is another side of this problem, the hacking itself. Now, for this, I'm going to assume that this is all true from Wikileaks. I honestly think that the government agencies that are involved not only went rogue, but sold said information to other countries, or at the very least, gave them to other hackers. You have to go back in time when the city of New York was trying to get Apple to obtain access to people's iPhones. Now, say what you want about Apple CEO Tim Cook, but he fought tooth and nail to make sure that did not happen. However, it happened anyway, and much more it seems like nobody was spared. Even Samsung was mentioned with their smart TVs about being on when they looked to be off. Now, I've always said, if the feds want to know that badly what I'm up to, just ask me. I will tell you. This goes way, way beyond that, because assuming if all this is true, we got huge issues because they are doing the hacks, then blaming someone else on them. This could possibly start a major war for no reason, just for internal political gain, and I got a newsflash for the people that are happy. If Wikileaks is right about this, Trump Tower was wiretapped during the election, and nothing was found at all. It will be game over in this country for Team Blue and at least half of Team Red. I say that because people of this country put up way too much BS from our government, but this would never be one of them. Especially if this looks like the Red Scare from the 1950s. This will be an interesting year. So my advice to everyone is not to read the headline from your favorite webpage, but to research all of the information and only then make the call.